Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a topic that affects every single one of us every single day, food security. It's all about why your next meal matters more than you might think. All right, let's kick things off with a real head-scratcher. Our planet produces more than enough food to feed everyone. Not just the 8 billion people we have now, but 10 billion. And yet, millions and millions of people are still going hungry. So what's the deal? Let's dive in and unpack this. So to really get this, we first need to be on the same page about what food security even means. The World Health Organization has this official definition, but let's break it down. The key words here are all people and at all times. It's not just about having some food sometimes. It's about everyone, always, having access to enough of the right kind of food to be healthy and active. Okay, so what's standing in the way of achieving that goal? Well, the challenges start at this massive global scale. We're talking about two huge pressures that are really changing the game for all of us. First up, people. Lots and lots of people. I mean, look at this timeline. For almost all of human history, our population grew at a snail's pace. But then, in the last century, it just exploded. It took us all of history to get to 2 billion people by 1930. And then, in less than 100 years, we more than quadrupled that number. That is a lot more mouths to feed, putting a huge strain on our planet's resources. And all those people have an impact, which brings us to the second massive pressure, our changing climate. When it comes to farming, this is a serious double threat. On one hand, you've got devastating droughts that just wither crops in the field. On the other, you have catastrophic floods that can wash away entire farms. It makes growing food reliably, well, a lot less reliable. All right, let's zoom in a bit. We've seen the big global picture. Now let's get down to the ground level, to the fields and farms, to see how these challenges play out day to day. So, one huge problem is something that sounds like it's from a sci-fi movie: alien invasive plants. And trust me, these things are not just annoying weeds. They are like professional agricultural saboteurs. They gulp down way more water than native plants. Some of them poison the soil. And get this, some even have oils that make wildfires burn hotter. As if that wasn't enough, they can be toxic to animals, and they crowd out the very crops we're trying to grow. Now, this is a really fascinating and kind of scary idea. Think of the gene pool of our crops like a massive library of defense strategies. Wild plants over thousands of years developed natural resistance to all sorts of pests and diseases. But as we've started relying on just a few perfectly identical man-made crop varieties, we're basically throwing out all those ancient defense books. This makes our whole food supply incredibly fragile. One new disease could potentially wipe out a huge chunk of it. But, maybe the most unbelievable factor in all of this is this number. Just take a look. 1/3. Any guesses what that could possibly represent? Yep, it's the amount of food we waste. A full 1/3 of every single thing we grow for people to eat is lost or just thrown in the trash. That's 1.3 times billion tons. To put that in perspective, that is more than enough food to end world hunger, several times over. So you see, it's not really a production problem, it's a waste problem. And this table tells a really interesting story about how that waste happens. It's really a tale of two worlds. In developing countries, a huge amount of food, up to 40%, is lost before it even gets to a customer. Think poor roads, no refrigeration, that kind of thing. But in developed countries, the waste happens much closer to us. It's supermarkets throwing out perfectly good food because of a sell-by date, and it's what we throw out from our own fridges. So we've got these huge global pressures, and we've got this massive waste problem. But there's one more piece to the puzzle, and it means we have to kind of look in the mirror. We have to look at our farming fingerprint, the mark we're leaving on the land, because some of our most modern methods are actually making things worse. We're just going to quickly break down 4 big ones here: monoculture, overgrazing, and our heavy reliance on artificial fertilizers and chemical pesticides. So, monoculture. That's when you see those endless fields of just one crop, like corn or wheat, stretching for miles. For pests that love that one specific crop, it's basically a massive all-you-can-eat buffet. It helps them thrive. At the same time, planting the same thing over and over again sucks the exact same nutrients out of the soil year after year, leaving it weak and degraded. And pesticides? They create this really dangerous cycle. So a farmer sprays a field. Most pests die, but the few that survive are the ones with natural resistance. They breed, and soon you have a whole population of superpests. But the poison doesn't just disappear. It builds up in the food chain. That's called bioaccumulation. So a mouse eats the poisoned grain, and then an owl eats 10 of those mice. The owl gets a huge dose of that poison. It's a vicious cycle that harms a lot more than just the bugs.
Okay, wow. So with all of these problems piling up, you've got to be asking, what are the solutions? Well, technology has offered one very powerful and also very controversial answer: genetically modified foods, or GMOs.
Now, on paper, the promise of GMOs is incredible. You can create crops that are naturally resistant to pests, meaning you need fewer chemicals. You can pack them with extra nutrients. You can even design them to survive in droughts or salty soil, which could open up whole new areas for farming. Sounds like a magic bullet, right? Well, here's the catch. The scientific promise comes with a pretty steep economic price. These high-tech seeds are expensive, and they're owned and patented by massive corporations. This can trap farmers, especially small-scale farmers, in a cycle of debt. They have to buy new seeds every single year, and if prices go up, they're the ones who are squeezed.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. For literally thousands of years, farming has been about saving the seeds from your best crops to plant next year. It's the foundation of agriculture. But with patented GMO seeds, that ancient practice is often illegal. And what happens is that control over the most basic building block of our food, the seed itself, shifts from millions of farmers to just a handful of giant companies.
And that leaves us with this final, massive question to chew on. This goes way beyond science. If we invent the technology that could feed the entire world, who gets to control it? Who owns a seed? It's not just about food anymore. It's about power, it's about money, and it's about what the future of our entire global food system looks like. Obviously, this conversation is way too big to finish here. This is a huge, important topic, and if you want to keep learning and dive deeper into stuff like this, you should absolutely go and follow Mr. Chi. He's everywhere you are: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So go find him, like, share, and subscribe to keep the conversation and the learning going. Thanks so much for watching The Explainer.